All right, YouTube, we back with another one, man. As y'all know, I like to get right into the video, man, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to get right into it. I don't like to keep y'all waiting. No clickbait over here. As y'all see on the title, man, this is basically my personal home defense setup. I don't believe that there's a perfect home defense setup. That could be your opinionated fact, however you want to look at it. Either way is good with me. I know everybody got their own, outlook on what they choose to keep on their bedside or what they choose to keep nearby, when they have their guns and their firearms safely stored in their home. But if they got to get to something quick, everybody going to have their own opinion on what they want to, what they want to carry in the house or what they want to have nearby, God forbid, if they have to get to it in a moment's notice. And for me, it's going to be this. At the moment, I always kind of switch up my home defense, but this is like my most recent home defense setup right here. And in a minute, I'm going to get to y'all. In a minute, I'm going to get to the reason why and tell y'all why I believe, that this is the perfect home defense for me. Maybe not for y'all, but for me. As y'all know, I got a bunch of different firearms that I've had in the past. Some I got rid of, some I kept. So I got to kind of play around and experience with stuff at the range, man. And sometimes the outlook is not realistic. When you really start talking about scenarios, you start thinking about John Wick and all of that. I think we get a little bit ahead of ourselves on what we believe, is the perfect gun to have as a home defense. Some people are going to say shotgun. Some people are going to say a PCC. Most people are probably going to resort to a big AR-15 or something in that form. You know what I mean? And for me, I do agree that all those options are good. Hell, any option is good, man. If you have a gun in your household, then at the end of the day, if that's the only gun you have, then you're gonna have to rock with that one. That's gonna be your everyday carry, your home defense, your range gun, your whatever you want to call it. Is good with me. But as you get into firearms, you start playing around and experimenting with different guns, and you want to buy different guns and stuff like that, right? So you start having your EDC. Your home defense, your competition, you start to create a scenario for all your different guns. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I've got to play around with a lot of different guns, take them to the range. And as I realized, you want something that is probably not going to penetrate through walls crazy, which most guns are probably going to do that, even a handgun, which is why, you should have jacketed hollow points, especially in your EDC. Even if you have FMJs, man, that's all you can afford, and that's all you can afford. You know what I mean? If you're defending yourself, then it is what it is. But in reality, if you plan on using a gun for home defense, you should have at least one magazine with all hollow points in there, just because, God forbid, if you have to get into a situation and defend your home, you never know where those bullets are going to go flying at. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it'll be better to have hollow points because it's not a guarantee that all your shots are going to be placed on target. You know what I mean? So you definitely want to get some good ammunition that won't penetrate through 2 or 3 walls. And the reason why I say that I like this is because the chances of this over AR-15 or AK-47 penetrating through walls are going to be very much less than. Reason being because the 7.62x39 and the 5.56s, they're coming out that barrel at between 2,300 and 3,100 or even more feet per second. So you do the math. If you're shooting in a non-controlled environment in your house, just think about how many walls that could potentially go through. You know what I mean? It's a possibility that it's going to probably go through more than one wall. You know what I mean? And you always want to know, what's beyond your target. That's one of the number one rules in firearm safety. Know your target and know what's behind it. So at the end of the day, you don't know what's behind your neighbor's wall. You don't know who's sleeping behind there. So you want to get something that will probably be a little more accurate. Not saying that AR-15 or AK-47 isn't accurate, but if you ever shot an MP5 or a variant, then you know that these things are super accurate out of the box, man. And that's going to be one of the most important aspects of being in a situation where you have to defend your home. You don't want to just be shooting all over crazy. And it's easier said than done. You're under pressure and, your nervous system is through the roof. You don't know how you're going to shoot your gun under pressure. You know what I mean? But that's why it's good to go train, because you just never know how you're really going to react, where those bullets are going to go, and do you think the person who's trying to do harm to you or break into your house is going to worry about if they have a gun where those bullets go? Of course not, which is why you got to try your best to stop the threat immediately. So I feel like with this, yeah, it's a great gun. It's not super big. That's another thing. If you got a full-size AR-15, something like this MP5 right here will be easier to cut around corners and just better for close quarter combat. You know what I mean? Which is a situation that could happen literally inside your household, which is what I'm talking about, home defense. So I feel like an MP5, even with the suppressor, it still doesn't really give it a whole lot of length of the overall gun. So at the end of the day, I do like that. Another thing you want to worry about, you're probably not going to be worried about, so I'm not really going to say this is like a important reason, but it is in a way because it's your hearing. You know, that's what I want to get to next, your hearing. I got this thing suppressed, so God forbid if I have to use it in the house, it won't be super loud. It won't be loud at all. I mean, I shot this thing suppressed, and it's literally like shooting air. It almost makes no sound whatsoever. A small little whistle, you know, obviously not like the movies where it's super silenced, but definitely a big difference than shooting it unsuppressed. If you shoot this suppressed and shoot it unsuppressed, you'll definitely notice the difference, which obviously you will with any gun. But definitely I keep the suppressor running on this thing for my home defense setup because once again, it's super quiet and I won't have to worry about trying to throw ear protection over my ear, because in a realistic situation, unless you have somebody at bedside, how realistic is it going to be to put on ear protection before you start firing off, or you have to fire off in self-defense, you know, to defend yourself and your family. So I feel like that's the reason why I wanted the suppressor, because I knew that once I got this MP5, I wanted to eventually make it my home defense weapon. I used to run my shotgun as my home defense. I no longer have a shotgun. Do I plan on getting another shotgun down the line? Yes. But until then, this will do the job. And I'm pretty much good with this. I know it's reliable. I know it works. So I know it's not going to let me down. And like I said, running the suppressor, I don't have to worry about hearing protection. So if I do have to shoot it in the house, I mean, it may not always be the case, you know. This is my EDC. This is my primary carry, you know. But on my EDC, on my home defense setup, this is more like my backup weapon. This will be my go-to. This will be my backup weapon. But then again, there's situations where, you know, you might be coming home. This is on my person at all times. So if I'm coming home and I have to assess a possible threat and I have to use this, well, obviously, there goes the whole point of ear protection out the window. You know what I mean? It won't even matter because you're probably going to be deaf if you shoot this. But in a situation where that has to happen in that specific way, then so be it, because in a moment's notice, you're not going to be thinking about hearing protection. But this will defeat that purpose of why I'm running the suppressor on this, because obviously this is not going to shoot quiet. This is my 357 SIG Glock 32. So as y'all know, 357 SIG is a loud round. And yeah, you're probably going to be better off using this in an outside scenario. If you have to use it in the house, then so be it. But once again, expect to probably be deaf for a while. You know, like I said, in the situation where you're under panic and, you know, you're under stress, that's the last thing you're going to be worried about. So I know a lot of y'all probably going to say, well, that's not really going to matter. But I want to increase my chances of being able to save my hearing and also save my walls and my neighbors a great deal of stress. So this is one of the reasons why I feel like a PCC is more of a reliable weapon, a viable option, better yet, because my AR-15 or AK-47 is pretty much not going to let you down, especially if you have a pretty good, you know, quality one. Then you'll pretty much, you know, you'll be good to go, especially if you train with it and you use it and you know it runs. So I'm not banking on that. I'm not saying that if you use any of those, you know, your reliability is going to be less, because they could be more reliable than this in all honesty. But that's what I'm saying. For me, my choice right now, my EDC loadout is going to be this right here. This will be my primary weapon for when I'm home, and this will be my backup, God forbid if I have to defend. Because like I said, running the suppressor, man, just going to increase my chances of not losing my hearing for 4 or 5 days and damaging my ears. And, you know, you have family, you have kids, you know, you have a wife, you know, then you also want to make sure you're protecting them. You don't want to blow their eardrums out. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, running this will just increase those chances of that not happening. If you're running the AR-15 or AK, then expect for everyone in the house to go deaf if you have to use it. And more than likely, the whole entire neighborhood, including your neighbors. And like I said, over-penetration is a real thing, man, which is one of the main reasons why I feel like using this would just be better, because I'll be more on target with this over AR-15 or AK-47. You can say what you want. You can fight me in the comments, but I shoot this thing the most accurate out of my AR and my AK. The MP5 platform is just super accurate, obviously because it shoots 9, And I know what y'all gonna say, 9mm is not gonna be a better defense round than 7.62 or 5.56. But for me, I feel like that really doesn't matter, because if you run the right ammunition in here, you'll be able to stop any threat. And the last time I checked, a bullet is a bullet. So whether it be a bigger bullet or a smaller bullet, eventually you're gonna stop the threat if you shoot your target. So I really don't understand what's the whole debate about running which type of ammunition or which type of caliber, because any caliber is gonna stop a threat. It may be some calibers, they might stop the threat faster, but the whole point is that any caliber, any bullet size is gonna stop the threat. So I really don't know what the whole debate is about that. So yes, while this may not be a 5.56 or 7.62, 9mm is still gonna get the job done, especially out of a freaking 9-inch barrel PCC. It's definitely gonna stop the threat. And last time I checked, you know what the magazine holds in this. I don't have to get into that. So there's no need to even argue there, because if it's gonna take you that many rounds to put a threat down, then maybe you should probably go to the range a little more often and train a little more often. And I think that's what a lot of people worry about. But you ain't gonna have no problem with this, man. More than likely, this is gonna handle the majority of your problems. If you have to have a home defense situation where you gotta defend yourself and your family, this is gonna get the job done. Other people are gonna tell you an AR is gonna get the job done. I've literally used all of my guns as home defense guns at some point. My AR, my AK, my shotgun. I always kind of switch up my defense setups as I told you in the beginning of the video. And right now I'm just really digging this setup, because I just feel like at the end of the day, if I have to get to this, it's nearby. And you know what I mean? If this doesn't get the job done, this is definitely going to get the job done. But more than likely, this is going to get the job done, which is why in the house, this becomes my backup weapon. Obviously, I don't carry this with me, so this is my EDC. And like I said, if I have to get into a situation where I'm arriving home and there's a threat waiting for me, you know, because a lot of times y'all watch these home invasion videos, man, people get bombarded once they get into their doorway. I mean, I know people personally that have been rushed into their homes while they're getting home. So let's not say that's not a possibility, because if this is all I have on me, then I'm not going to be worried about my suppressed MP5. This is going to be, you know, the only thing I have on me to defend me at that moment. So this is what's getting used. Yeah, it's going to blow my eardrums, but that's what I'm saying. You got to have a setup for every situation. This is my setup for when I'm already home and nearby. I can get to it quickly if I need to. I already have my attachments on here that I need, nothing too crazy. Just my suppressor, and that's it. You don't see any fancy scope on here, anything like that whatsoever. Just a simple setup in its own way. While I say a suppressor was not necessarily cheap, but at the end of the day, you don't have to run a suppressor. But like I said, more than likely, if you don't, this gun is going to get a lot louder. Obviously, it's not going to be as loud as the AR or AK, but, you know, most of y'all probably don't really care about that, because like I said, under pressure, under stress fire, you're really not going to worry about losing your hearing. But if I can increase the chance of my hearing and my family's hearing not going to shit, if I have to defend my house, then so be it. So this takes the cake, man. This is going to be what's going to be my home defense setup for now and probably a long time. Obviously, if situations occur differently and I can't get to this, then something else will be in arm's reach. Best believe it will. I don't know how everybody else has their own defense setups, but I like to listen and hear all y'all out, you know, on what y'all prefer to use as home defense. I got some guys that like ARs, some guys that like shotguns. I've been that guy, so I know. But I'm not somebody that gets upset about someone else's opinion on what they like to carry or what they like to use for their home defense setup or anything for that matter, you know. So I always love to hear what y'all got to say. Or if y'all got videos that y'all posted up that showing me what y'all using for y'all home defense, then I'll come and check it out. You know what I mean? I'm cool with that. I like to see different options out there. I don't expect everybody to agree with this setup or any of my setups for that matter. But that's okay though. I'm cool with that, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own opinion. And like I said, this is just my EDC / home defense setup. Because as you see, I got my EDC right here, home defense. So this is my 2025 home defense setup for right now, and probably for a long time, man. Until I get something else that probably changes the game, that I know could be a viable option, that won't over penetrate, that I can get shots on target and not have to worry about, you know, risking bullets going through walls and things like that, where I know that the shot placement on this is going to be great and I can, you know, take care of, you know, the threat easily, then, you know, I'll go for that. But until then, it's going to be really hard to beat the accuracy on the MP5, the quietness, running this suppressed, and like I said, man, just being an overall good package. You know, not too heavy, not too big. It's compact, close quarter combats. If you got to move around your walls, or you know, if you do have to go John Wick on a man, then look, this is what you need right here. You don't need a super big 16 or 18-inch barrel, man, because all that's going to do is slow you down if you have to move around, or you got to get skinny on them real quick. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. But otherwise, this is the overall best package, in my opinion. So y'all can take that with a grain of salt if y'all agree with me. If y'all don't, either way, I'm good with that, man. I just figured I'll share with y'all what I'm running for my EDC for 2025 and my home defense for 2025. But otherwise, man, I ain't gonna make this video too much longer. I'm gonna catch you on the next video, man. Be sure to drop a comment, man. Like and share the video. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna catch you on the next video, man. Y'all be safe out there.